My dead girlfriend keeps messaging me on Facebook. I've got the screenshots, but I don't know what to do. Tonight's kind of a catalyst for this post. I just received another message and it's worse than any of the others. My girlfriend died on the 7th of August, 2012. She was involved in a 3-car collision driving home from work when someone ran a red light. She passed away within minutes on the scene. We had been dating for 5 years at that point. She wasn't big on the idea of marriage. It felt archaic, she said. Gave her a weird vibe. But if she had been, I would have married her within 3 months of our relationship. She was vibrant, the kind of girl that would always choose dare every time. And she was the happiest when camping, but a total technophile too. And she always smelled like cinnamon. That being said, she wasn't perfect. She always said something along the lines of, if I die first, don't just say good things about me. I never liked that. If you don't pay me out, you're doing me a disservice. I've got so many flaws, and that's just a part of me. So, this is for M. The music she said she liked and the music she actually liked were very different. Her idea of affection was a side hug. She had really long toes, like a chimpanzee, and I know that's kind of random to say, but I don't feel like discussing her without you having an idea of what she was like. But now, here's where I finally discuss what's been happening to me recently. Emily had been dead for approaching 13 months when she first messaged me, and on September 4th, 2013 is where it all began. I'd left Emily's Facebook account activated so I could send her the occasional message, post on her wall, and go through her albums. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it felt too final and too un-Emily to memorialize it. I just couldn't let her go. I wanted to keep her memory alive as long as possible, so I share access to the Facebook page with her mother, Susan, meaning, she has the login and password and she spent a little bit of time on her Facebook page, although she really doesn't know how to use it. I started assuming that it must have been her who was messaging me, pretending to be Emily in some weird role-playing way, which if so, I could understand since we all process death differently. So I left it at that. Now, 2 months go by, and this is where it all begins again. I had received confirmation from Susan, Emily's mom, that she hadn't logged into M's Facebook page since the week of her death. I knew Emily knew a lot of people, so I instantly assumed that this was one of her more tech-savvy friends fucking with me in the worst possible way. But after speaking with her mom, later that day, I noticed pretty much immediately that whoever was chatting with me was recycling old messages from M and Mai's shared chat history. Now, 3 months go by, and nothing weird had come from Emily's account ever since that day last year. But oddly enough, on a cold winter day in February 2014, Emily started tagging herself in my photos. I would get notifications for them, but the tag would generally always be removed by the time I got to it. But the first time I actually caught one, it felt like someone had punched me in the gut. She, and I didn't know who this person was, would tag herself in places where it was plausible for her to be or where she would usually hang out. And I've got screenshots of 2 from April and June. These are the only ones I've caught, so they're a little out of the timeline I'm trying to explain. And around this period of time, I stopped being able to sleep. I was just too angry to sleep. Whoever was behind this would tag Emily in random photos every couple of weeks, and the friends who noticed and said something thought it was a fucked up bug. I found out recently that there have been friends who have noticed and didn't say anything, and some of them have removed me from their friends list. But at this point, some of you may be wondering why I didn't just close my Facebook profile. I wish I had. I did for a little while, but on days where I just can't get out there, it's nice to have friends available to chat. And it's nice visiting M's page when the little green circle isn't next to her name. I mean, I was already socially reclusive when M was alive, but her death turned me into something pretty close to a hermit. And Facebook and MMOs are my only real social outlets. A month goes by, and I finally decide to confront Emily's hacker. I said, "Why are you doing this? Why do you keep tagging her?" Obviously, at this point, I was just fed up and frustrated, and I couldn't take any more. But they never responded. 10 days go by, though, and I finally received an answer. And it wasn't until I was going over these logs a few months later that I noticed she was recycling my own words as well. My response seems kind of lackluster here. I was intentionally providing him or her with emotional bait to keep them interested in their game. I was working off the assumption that that kind of person, whoever that person was, would be the kind of person that would gain pleasure from my pain. And I was posting in tech forums, looking for ways to track this person, and I even contacted Facebook. But none of those options worked, and I needed to keep them around so I could gather evidence. And before anyone decides to ask, yes, I had changed the password and all security info countless times, so it was kind of impossible for anyone at this point to log in to Emily's account besides me. About 3 weeks go by, and I received this. They said, "We should make our own jam. JFC Samantha, not different. No chance of passing. No chance of passing. How many? Garage side door. Side. No chance of passing." And at this point, it just seemed like a bunch of jumbled words, word salad. Like, it just seems like a mixture of our previous conversations all mixed into one message. Another week goes by, and I hadn't discovered any leads. Facebook had told me the locations of her page had been accessed from, but since her death, they're all places I can account for, like my home, my work, her mom's house, etc. And my response here wasn't bait. "Yo, ask Nathan" was an inside joke, too lame worth explaining, but seeing her saying it again just absolutely fucking crippled me. My reaction in real life was much less prettier, and her last few messages started to scare me, but I wouldn't admit it at this point. Another week goes by, and I received another message, and to be honest, I really didn't have any words for this. Freezing is the first original word she or whoever this person is made up. This has given me nightmares that have only started to kick in recently. I keep dreaming that she's in an ice-cold car, frozen blue and gray, and I'm standing outside in the warmth screaming at her to open the door, but she doesn't even realize I'm there. About 2 weeks go by, and I messaged her this. "I'm really drunk. I miss you. Whoever's on this account, I don't give a fuck. I keep coming home from work and expecting to see you at the computer. Shouldn't I be used to that by now?" And she responded by saying, Let me walk." But I wasn't actually drunk. And Emily, when she was alive, was not an affectionate girl. And it always embarrassed her to exchange any kind of "I love yous" or cuddles or talking about how much we meant to each other. But she was more comfortable with it when I was boozed up, so I would usually come home pretending to be drunk so she would feel more comfortable showing me affection. In any case, her reply is what prompted me to finally memorialize her page, thinking it might help curb this behavior. And it might seem innocuous compared to her previous message, but it's pasted from an old conversation where I was trying to convince her to let me drive her home from a friend's, but she wouldn't budge. In the collision, the dashboard had crushed her. She was severed in a diagonal line from her right hip to midway down her left thigh, and one of her legs was found tucked under the back seat. These are the logs from the day she died. This, alongside a couple of voicemail messages, is the last time I talked to her under the assumption that she was alive. You'll see why I'm showing you these soon. Yesterday, the 1st of July, 2014, I memorialized her page a couple of days after I received the message about walking. Until today, she'd been quiet. She wasn't even tagging herself in my photos. I don't know what to do anymore. Do I kill her page? What if it is her? I feel so sick right now. I want to puke. I don't know what's happening. I just heard a Facebook alert, and I'm too afraid to swap windows and check it. Update. So, I finally had the courage to check the alert, and I heard it as soon as I was gathering all the details for this recording, and this was the message. "That's my door. That's my computer. It's taken from outside. I got the message 3 hours ago, but didn't check it until now. I'm on my tablet in my garage. Zen for now. I think I'm gonna drive to a friend's house or something, but I forgot to open the garage door in my panic, so I'm currently building up the nerve to go out and do that now."